Hello everyone, welcome to part 16 of this series. Today we're setting up our spell system. I've already covered abilities several times, but this time we're taking a different approach. We'll have spell books that contain spells and we'll run everything through the inventory system. Before we start, I would like to thank all of my Patreon supporters for the amazing support. This scene will be made available on Patreon. So today we're setting up a spell system. I've already done ability systems before, but I wanted to set this up like a system we see in Skyrim, where you basically pick up spell tomes or books, whatever you want to call them. They will teach you that spell and then they'll be added to your inventory. So we're taking a different approach. These will be inventory items, and that makes it really easy to manage, just like everything else in the inventory, if you plan to have a lot of them. So it will be a bit easier than you might expect actually to set this up. So let's get started. So just like before, I'm going to be duplicating this. So which one is the right crate? It's this crate, there we go. So we're going to duplicate a pickup sword and a crate, and let's drag this over, drag it a bit down, there we go. Maybe that's a bit too much. That's a good fit. So we're going to replace this with a spell book, and I can't remember which of the Cinti assets actually had it, but it was one of the ones it was the Polygon fantasy characters, which was in that fantasy bundle. So we'll be using that, so let's drag that in. There we go. And I'm going to put it around the middle of the crate. Cool. Now, obviously, I'm doing this in the terms of, it's just going to be here on a crate just to have it all functional. Obviously, we can later tie this to so many different things, but yeah, it's just going to be a pickup. So we have pickup, fireball, spell. And the nice thing with it being an inventory item is that there's so many ways you could actually use this. You could easily tie it to quest systems, etc. So it's actually a pretty decent system, and with inventory it's actually pretty easy to set up. So let's remove that sword, and all we need to do is change the actions. Now, in order to change the actions, we will obviously need to make inventory items for this. Now, I already set that up, and I'm just going to show you what to do because it's incredibly easy. So we're going to go to our inventory, and I have, well, let's actually call this a book instead of a scroll. So we have a new inventory item that has a fireball book, so that's what I call it. I mean, you can do tome as well, fireball tome, maybe that's a better word for it. And then we should name this teaches a strong fireball spell. There we go. We have a sprite, and I took one of the ones that was in the fantasy bundle, and I just took this one. It's I would definitely recommend making something nicer, so an actual sprite of a book, for example. That would be nice with the actual spell on it, but yeah, this works. I haven't even checked, maybe there is one. Oh well, might not be a worst idea to actually check that first. There do seem to be books. Let's do that. Let's actually pick something slightly better, and obviously there is none with a fire type of effect. There is ice, there is whatever this is, but nothing fire. Oh well, I'm just going to pick this one just to differentiate them a bit better. So we're taking a book here. This book can be sold, and you can set whatever price you want. Max stack, well, we could have 5. I mean, these are items you could sell. Weight, let's do 1, and there we go. Now, I've created these item types, so let's set those up. So when we go to types, basically create a, well, just type in this. So literally, don't forget the slashes, they are important. And then, you know, here type scrolls, etc. You get the gist of it. So we have one for scrolls and we have one for ability, because yes, the abilities themselves will also be inventory items. So once you've typed this up, we can go back and then you'll see them appear here. Make sure to select nothing first to completely clean the list of item types, and then add a scroll. Well, it should have been a tome most likely, but that's fine. This is a consumable, so we're consuming this item, that's quite important. And attach from spine is going to be what we're going to do for the magical effect. Now what I've done for the magical effect is something really simple, so let's temporarily close this and do that first. I've used the Polygon particle effects quite often, but obviously whatever particle effect you have will work. You don't need to use the same one. And I've taken... which one was it again? I think it was called draw something. Oh, in prefabs. So yeah, this is the one. Power draw. Now if I drag this in the scene, you'll see it looking like this, and it just endlessly loops. So what I did is I unpacked the prefab. I renamed it to, let's name it to spell learned. We'll just do this from here. We turn off loop and let's do 6 seconds. Maybe that's a bit long. No, it's fine. 6 seconds is fine. Then make sure you do the same here with electricity, because there are two different effects. So 6 seconds as well. And then we have a, well, it looks exactly the same, but basically we created a new prefab. And then we're going to drag that in. And we have fx spell learned. Now we go back to our inventory, go back to our tome, and we're going to attach, let's do the new one. They're exactly the same, but doesn't matter. So spell learned, there we go. And we have our new prefab. Now I'm choosing to attach it on the spine rather than instantiating it. And the reason for that is with instantiating the effect, if you move, well, you know, the spell doesn't move along. And it actually looks nicer if it's actually on the character as well, but that's a personal preference, you don't have to do that. We attach it to the bone, to the spine, and we pick the spell, space itself, and we do -1 just so it's a bit lower. Then I'm waiting 6 seconds. We remove it from the spine, and I'm going to remove this last action because we're going to do that different. So basically after 6 seconds the effect is gone. So next up we create another inventory item, and the easiest way is to actually duplicate the sword, as it will be really similar. So duplicate it and just, you know, drag it down. And we'll rename it to fireball spell. Launches a fireball. We pick a sprite, and that's going to be this one this time. And it cannot be sold, that's quite important. You know, you can't sell an ability. You can only have one. And weight is going to be 0, because it's a bit weird if this has weight to it. And then again select nothing, and then go to magic, spells, ability. We have to make sure we differentiate them. And then we're going to do an equip action. So invoker, fireball spell, and then type again our ability. We're going to remove everything here. So no conditions, no on equip, no nothing, nada. That's it. And the reason we're doing this is because I do want the ability to literally be able to equip it. And the fact that we equip the spell will be, well, it will literally be enough as a condition. So yeah, that's it. So that's it for our inventory part. And as you can see, this is going to be quite easy to replicate, because once you've set them up once, you can, just go ahead and duplicate, make a couple of small changes, and you're good. So really nice. And then when we go to our book here, so we have our actions, and all we really need to change here is add one sort item. That's going to be the fireball tome. And I did actually forget something. Let me do that. In our fireball tome, we actually do need to add an item. So let's just do item, that's easier. There we go. Item, add, and we're adding our spell. So our fireball spell. And let's make sure we do that first. That way you don't have to wait until the animation is over before you can use it. So yeah, that's it for that part. So as you can see, it's rather easy. It's not really all that interesting so far. And yeah, we're adding the fireball tome here, and yeah, that's it. There's nothing else we really need to do. Everything else was already set up, and it kind of shows how easy it is to create pickups once you've already done it once. Duplicating it and just literally changing one little thing will be enough. So pretty cool. Then we will go to our user interface and set up mana. So let's go to our HUD and let's switch to 2D. There we go. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to duplicate our health bar. Let's drag this up and let's rename it mana bar. And I'm just going to rename everything first before I forget. It's just to avoid confusion. And mana bar. There we go. Now in the delay, make sure you select mana, and in the HUD we need to add a new component. Now if you've installed the stats examples, as I hope you have, mana will be there. And if you don't have mana there, it's because you didn't install the stats examples, which means you also didn't have the health. So either way, I'd recommend making sure you actually install those. And here we're dragging in our mana bar to all of these values. And that's it. Now we didn't obviously set up a bar yet. We duplicated it, but it won't be functional. Well, it will be functional actually. It will just look the same, which is not that great. So I'm going to turn on gizmos here. And yeah, there we go. So our toolbar, let's drag that down. And there we go. Now obviously it's a bit lame having the same icons and it doesn't make any sense. So in the description of this video, I'll add a link to one of the ones I've created. You can use your own, obviously. You can just have a really simple bar as well. It's quite important to point out. I think that doesn't really match this style of already having, little icons. So I'm actually going to do this the right way by doing some new ones. And it's called magic. And we need to do the same sprite here. Magic. Yay. So let's resize this. And did I do the right one? No, I didn't do the right one. Did I select something else? No, I didn't. I'm pretty sure I selected it twice. Magic. There we go. So let's select both. And we're bringing it down. And I do want it to kind of match the position of the hearts. The icons are slightly different. Now I do like to point out that with this default image that I had in the description, it won't be possible to add new ones like we did with the hearts. So if you want to do the same as we did with the hearts, the important thing is going to be opening this in an image editor and just, you know, adding more. That's it. So exactly the same way we did the hearts. Now I'm going to make one change to our variables though. So when we go to preferences and we go to our variables, and I don't actually need that. And we go to, not variables, to our stats. I cranked up wisdom to 100. And in attributes, I cranked up mana to a full value as well. Now the reason I did this is because by default wisdom was 30, and that's the formula being used for, you know, for mana, and it just complicates things a tiny bit, you know, having those weird values, and it just makes more sense to just set everything to 100. I don't really see an added benefit of changing this. So yeah, 100 and 100 here as well. Well, a full 1 actually. And there we go. So we have our mana bar, and the delay is properly set because that's just going to be done while duplicating. We have our icons, and in our HUD we have our new images. So we're good there. That's all nicely done. And then the next step will be, how are we going to tie this and our inventory to actually using those spells. Now when we go to our player and magic, we previously set up these triggers. Now I'm going to keep at 9, as I think that's you know, a fine button. You can change it to whatever button you want, of course, but this will be the button that can trigger spells. So I'm going to remove this trigger. It will no longer be necessary, and we're going to add a new set of conditions. Going to remove this from the list here, and let's drag those conditions up because they are slightly more important. And this will be a spell select, and this will be tied to our inventory. So has equipped item fireball spell, and another condition, and that's going to be the requirement of mana used for this spell. So in this case I'm going to do 50, so 50 out of 100. It takes 2 bars to use a spell, so greater or equal to 50. Then we're going to use fireball. Now the important thing is, obviously you want to be able to use multiple spells, you know, that makes sense. And all you really have to do is exactly the same as we did for our swords. Just create a new condition here that does the same for the other spells. And even though I originally didn't do that, we can actually do that right now. That's completely fine. So this set of actions will have call conditions, and as you can imagine, we need new conditions. So we're just going to duplicate the spell select. I'm going to drag that in here, otherwise this will get convoluted. And we're going to drag in those conditions. And these conditions will look exactly the same. So let's go to our preferences here. Go to our inventory, and let's actually duplicate those. So we have Fireball Tome, and let's call this Fire Blast, Burst, whatever. Teaches a strong Fire Blast spell. Let's do a different book. This one. This all remains the same. Now this is more valuable, so let's do 50. And I'm going to keep all of that the same, but we do need to attach a new spell, so let's create that. So we have our Fire Blast spell. Fire Blast again. Then we do need a new icon here. What do they have in terms of fire? Yeah, this seems alright. I'm not really sure what this is, but I'm just going to do this one. Cool, so we have a new icon and it's going to equip the Fire Blast spell to our character. All of this remains the same, so nada. And if I'm correct, that's actually it, yeah. Then let's do the same here. So we're adding a Fire Blast spell to our inventory. And that's it. That's really all we need to do. So now we can add those conditions. So in order to do the Fire Blast spell, we need 75, because I don't think this is something that you should just be able to, you know, do again straight away. It's a really strong spell, the Fire Blast. And let's actually add that mana subtraction here. So attribute mana subtract 50 for the first one. And then we can copy this over, go to the second one. Did I already do that? That's interesting. Ah, fair enough. So we need to drag in the Fire Burst here. So that was supposed to be the blast. Let's add that action. Subtract and then 75. And there we go. Now I don't have anything yet here, so I'm just going to do none, as we don't have anything else. And that's it. You know, there's 2 spells right now, and this will basically, you know, cycle between these 2. So if there's nothing equipped, then what happens is he will check, do we have this equipped? Do we have enough mana? But we don't have this equipped, then he will go to the next one. And here we will check, do we have this one equipped? No, we don't have that equipped either. And then nothing. So basically, if you don't have a spell equipped, nothing will happen when you press the button. So pretty simple. And let's try this out. But before we do, one little detail I completely forgot about is our inventory UI. So let's go to our inventory UI. Let's turn this on. And a really simple change here. So we're going to go to inventory tab, inventory contents, inventory. That's a lot of subtabs, and there we go. So this icon will select recipes and scrolls. Should have been books, but whatever. And then we're going to duplicate this one, which will create a new one. I'm going to choose a different image for this, and this is an image I made myself in Photoshop, so I'll just link that in the description as well. I'll just add it, and it's not here, icon and magic. Oh, and I think it's this one. There we go. And this tab will filter for, let's do nothing. That's the easiest way to do this. And then we do ability. So this will just show our abilities, and this will show our books. So let's try this again, and we'll turn off that menu. And we're going to go to our spell here, And yeah, I forgot to drag out that particle effect from our hierarchy, the prefab we created. Then when I go to books, we have our fireball tome. I turn that on, go back just to see the effect, and yeah, it looks pretty cool. I like it anyway. But anyway, the important part here is we have our fireball spell, and this is now equipped, and if I press 9 now, it will create a fireball, and as you can see, it consumes 2 of those bars. If I do this again, then it launches another one, and if I do this again, nothing happens because we don't have enough mana even though we have the spell equipped. So pretty cool. Now I didn't set up anything to regenerate mana, and there are so many ways to do this with potions or automatically regenerate it yourself. That's up to you. We will create some basic potions later on, but if you wanted to regenerate by default, just add a trigger with on start and then add mana by default per second. I've done that so many times in videos. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with that mechanic. So that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.